He peered into my eyes. He said, "You're headed down a one-way street in fifth gear, right towards a brick wall." I stopped taking advice for the most part years ago. It's because I realized the person offering it doesn't have to live with the outcome, but we do. Things go wrong, they're long gone, and we're left to pick up the pieces and deal with the consequences. There's a stark difference between advice and guidance. And I didn't realize how any of this worked at all for the longest time. The first time I did begin to understand, I was sweating through my clothes in a boxing gym. I was out of high school by about 2 years, give or take. I was taking up boxing, and I was also hanging around with what some would call a rough crowd. Being young and foolish, it didn't bother me that my friends were headed down a path laced with dark clouds. I was still the new guy in the gym. I think it was my third time there. And the night before, I'd been out with my friends all night, getting drunk and being a fool. So I come in hungover, and my ribs were sore because we had been play fighting, which is not something I advise. My coach Lou picked up on the fact that something was amiss, but rather than call me out in front of the whole squad, which is something he was known to do from time to time, he approached me after all the other fighters had left. And I remember I was unwrapping my hands. And he comes over to me and says, "Rough night last night?" I don't even think I said anything. I just smirked at him. I nodded. He said, "How your ribs, big boy?" You can tell I was favoring my side. I said, "I'm good, coach." He looks me up and down, starts shaking his head. So of course my ego gets stung a bit, and I look up. I say, "What? Why are you scoffing at me?" And I'll never forget what he said. He said, "Because you don't realize what you're doing and where you're headed." Well, where's that? He peered into my eyes. He said, "You're headed down a one-way street in fifth gear, right towards a brick wall." I stopped. Froze. That man was serious, and I realized that he was speaking out of concern. So I tried to downplay it. I said, "It's not that bad, coach." And I wanted to reassure him that I was okay. He just shook his head. And I'll never forget what he said next. He said, "Mr. Beverly, I deal with brokenness for a living. Young men from broken homes, with broken hearts, who come in here with broken hopes." He said, "You think I can't smell the pile of shit you're walking into?" I didn't know what to say, so I just shrugged my shoulders. I said, "Well, you're only young once, coach." He said, "Yeah, and plenty of young people go to prison. Plenty of young people die." Of course, my ego was being poked pretty hard at this point. I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do, coach?" And without hesitation, he snapped back at me and he said, "Well, you can start by giving a damn. You can start by showing up here on time, ready to work. Otherwise, you're wasting both of our time." Again, my ego. I said, "I am ready to work." And that's when he stared through me like I was translucent. He said, "Boy, you limped in here with a hangover and you're protecting your ribs." He says, "Don't give me that line of shit, Beverly." And you got to keep in mind, this man was a Korean War veteran, retired U.S. Marine, and he may have been in his mid-60s, but he could have easily handed me and most men their ass, and it wouldn't have taken him much. He was just that generation. So as if I wasn't intimidated enough as it was, that's when he turned to me and he said, "Wrap up, glove up, meet me on the mat." He starts to walk away, and I called out to him, keeping his back to me. He says, "Non-negotiable, Beverly. Get your gear back on or don't bother coming back." So I spent the next few minutes wrapping back up, gloving back up. And those couple minutes felt like an eternity. He's going to beat my ass. I reluctantly put my gear back on and did the walk of shame over to where he was eagerly awaiting me. "Hands up," he shouted. "Coach, what are you?" Boom! Hits me right in the gut. Before I could say another word, I caught one in the cheek. I said, "Coach, what are you doing?" That man's eyes were daggers, boy. Daggers. And he said, "You can go out there on the streets, scrap around with your friends, tough guy, but you can't do a little light sparring with an old man?" I didn't even know what to say. And wasn't much I could do either way. I tried to open my mouth at some point, and he popped me again. And he says, "You gassing out on me already, boy? You must not have got no sleep. Party animal." Yeah. Toying with me. 1-2 combo, then another. I was too scared to try to hit him back, of course, because that would have not boded well for me whatsoever. So he lands a couple more shots, and he gets me right on the outside of where my ribs were sore. And I hit a knee. I was done. I said, "You made your point, Coach." I was trying to get my wind. I was tore up. I was hurt. That's when he knelt down next to me and he said, "Look at me, son." I looked up. I was fighting tears. He said, "You won't have a future?" I nodded. He said, "Real toughness is not in your hands. It's in your heart and your mind. It begins with good decisions." You tough? I couldn't answer. And that's when the Marine came out. He said, "Are you tough?" I shook my head no, because by God I wasn't. And he reached the palm of his glove up. He lifted my chin, forcing me to look him in the eyes. And he said, "I can help you, son. But you gotta help you first. Because if you don't give a damn, there isn't anything I can do for you. But if you do, I can turn you into a well-oiled machine, keep you on a better path." Then he dropped to his hands and started doing a slow push-up, keeping his eyes on me the whole time. He says, "Get down here and do these with me." So I hit my hands and started moving with him in tandem. Then we went down and come back up. We locked eyes. He says, "Do you want it?" "Yes, Coach." Went back down, came back up. "Can't hear you, Beverly. Do you want it?" "Yes, Coach." Go down, come back up. Our eyes locking each time. Said, "How bad do you want it?" "Bad, Coach." This time he didn't go back down. He just held plank. He stared right through me. He says, "Then know this. You come in here again hungover, you're done. And if I hear any one of my guys been out on the streets scuffling around, coming in here banged up, you're done. You understand?" "Yes, Coach." He said, "I'll never ask you to do anything that I won't do myself or do with you. But I'll be damned if I'm going to waste what life I've got left on people who don't respect themselves." And that got me. I had not been showing myself any respect. And he wasn't going to fix anybody who wasn't man enough to admit where he was broken. And he turned to me and said, "You got two options, son. My way or their way. If it's going to be their way, it's been nice knowing you, kid. Don't come back." He said, "You want to do it my way? I'll see you Monday." I nodded and collapsed. I was embarrassed, ashamed, tired, hurt. I was pretty messed up inside. I realized, though, that he did not try to lecture me. He didn't give me advice. He guided me. He showed me love. He made it real. He made it three-dimensional. He made it very real. He told me, he said, son, I don't know what's best for you in particular, but I do know what works. Some of these boys are destined for the streets, for prison, for the morgue, but you ain't one of them, unless you choose to be. So he said, am I going to see you on Monday, or do we shake hands once we unlace? Needless to say, my days hanging out with that crew were over after that, and I was back in the gym Monday. Didn't stay as long as I would have liked. I decided to devote my hands to bending guitar strings rather than hitting things, but that's a different video. I did, however, walk away from that whole ordeal with an understanding, and it made me despise most advice and cherish what little guidance we get. Because the root of what he did, even though he thrashed me around, it was noble. It was love, and I'm grateful for that. He could have mocked me, lectured me, made me feel like complete garbage, but he stepped into the muck with me. Push up for push up, blow for blow, eye to eye, man to man. And he showed me that I'd been neglecting myself. He showed me that if I wanted something better, I could have it. And nobody's going to do it for me or hold my hand. That's the difference. Advice is an opinion, a perspective, somebody's take on things. And sometimes it's helpful, and sometimes it ain't. But the person giving it, they don't carry the weight. They don't carry anything away from it if it goes wrong. And guidance is investment. Guidance is somebody putting in time, effort, energy. Sometimes putting their reputation on the line. All because they see something in you. Even if you don't. It just needs to come from the right person. Either somebody who's been where you are standing, or at the very least, somebody willing to stand there with you. And once you've experienced that, you hear advice differently for the rest of your life. On that note, the sun's setting and I'm going to get out of here in a minute. I'd love to hear your stories. How did you learn the difference between advice and guidance? I always enjoy reading your stories in the comments. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like. It helps the algorithm and it helps put this in front of the right people. I'm always grateful for each and every one of you. I'm out of here. Y'all be well.